hopefully this is actually working now. I am actually live now. Finally. Whew! Y'all, I hit the go live button like 5 times and YouTube was just not having it with me. So, which in that course of that time, I have now overheated from trying to click the button really aggressively. We are in fact live though, and the mic is on, the camera's on. Please let me know in chat if you can actually see me and hear me and that I really am live and I'm not just making things up. I feel like every week there's like a new there's like a new way in which I discover that I don't actually really know what I'm doing at all. Luckily, Aaron is not in Eastern Europe, Central European time zone this week, and is in Iceland instead, which means that it's not the actual middle of the night there. So I had a little bit of which pretty much I did the exact same thing that I was doing, but I was able to text Aaron panicked about why it wasn't working. I could be a recording. It is true. I may or may not actually be live. I could just have a recording that is me panicking, trying to get the live stream live, and we could play it as the pre-show, really. David says, I hope he took pictures. Iceland's supposed to be very photogenic. Yeah, I believe Aaron, Aaron actually went live from Iceland, this morning, which you can find on his channel, which I believe is linked down in my description, with like the volcano behind him that everybody takes a picture in front of. It was pretty great. It seemed very windy and very cold. So yeah. Latitude says it's 8 p.m. here and still light out. It is, I mean, it's only 5 p.m. here, but it is extremely light outside. It's just blue skies here. But apparently it didn't really get dark in Iceland last night. Not that I should steal Aaron's. Go watch Aaron's live stream if you want to learn about Iceland. I don't need to just tell you what Aaron already said in his live stream. But it like barely, the light barely went away last night in Iceland. Latitude says, anyhow, did you know the sun changes with the seasons? I know. It's kind of wild to think that like only 3 months ago I was like, it's dark at 4:30, and now is anybody else like freaking out about how quickly summer is coming up? I think there's this tiny part of me. So if you missed the memo or the thumbnail or whatever, and you just showed up here and you haven't heard me whining about it, I tested positive for COVID on Friday. I started having symptoms really on Thursday. I had like a really high fever and I tested negative. I had like a 102 fever and I was just flat out all day, but I was testing negative. Then Friday at 4 p.m. I tested positive, bold, bright positive. And I learned that is a terrible time to test positive at 4 p.m. on a Friday if you would like to get your hands on paxlovid, which I was not actually. So this is paxlovid. This doesn't have any of my personal information on it. So let's see if we can, I don't have someone to focus the camera. So anyway, this is the paxlovid scrip, which is the antiviral course that they now have for people that are at high risk of severe illness from COVID. And essentially it has, as explained by my nurse friend, she essentially said, there's not that many things for which we have been able to effectively figure out how to fight a virus once it's already in your body. And so the fact that they found it at all, it is a triple combination therapy. So it's 2 of one kind of pill and 1 of another kind of pill. I probably can't pronounce these, but it's 2 of nirmatrelvir and then 1 of ritonavir. And I wasn't going to be too hung up about it. 1, because while I am high risk for getting COVID and have thus far managed to avoid it, because I'm immunosuppressed, I'm not actually necessarily at worse outcomes if I get it. So I didn't know if I would fall in the category of people that it was even made sense for me to get it. But because when I was like super wiped on Thursday morning, I went, oh, I'm actually a day late on taking my weekly injection that I take. And I thought originally that it was a little bit of an arthritis flare up from being like a day late on my medication. Nope. Nope. It was COVID. Didn't know for another day and a half. But so I took my shot like first thing in the morning on Thursday, which is kind of bad news to take necessarily to take an immunosuppressant when you apparently are actively fighting a virus. So, yeah, anyway, the I was originally not really gonna frustrate myself, especially because I'm still if you've tuned into previous live streams, you probably know that I've had this ongoing insurance situation that's been going on all year. And when I had an 102-degree fever on Thursday, I had to spend over an hour on the phone on a 3-way call between the pharmaceutical company's patient assistance, financial assistance program, and the pharmacy benefit manager for CVS Pharmacy. I was on a 3-way call with two of them for an hour while I had a 102-degree fever because I'm just still dealing with this insurance issue. And I just like patently, I tried to figure out how I could get the Paxlovid prescribed. And the first thing I did was do what everybody says, which is you call your primary care physician. It was an hour before they closed. But I was like, oh, maybe they can just, prescribe it to me like right away. Because the evidence that I had seen was that actually a fair amount of pharmacies around me had it in stock. The problem was there didn't seem to be very many places that would prescribe it to you. So a bunch of people on the forums, particularly rural, was like trying to help me out and like pointing out that there were, in a lot of other states, there's like CVS test and treat where you could go there and get tested. And if you test positive for COVID, they can just immediately prescribe you if you fall into a high risk category and you're otherwise eligible for it. The Paxlovid. Anyway, there are none of those in Portland, and then there were only 2 Walgreens, both of which were like over 10 miles from my house. Which I don't drive, and I definitely don't want to get on a public transit. I had multiple friends that offered to like drive me, put me like a dog in the back of the car, including my parents. I'll breathe out the window or whatever, and they can wear N95s. But that was like not the ideal solution because the scrip was fillable very close to my house. The question was just like, and I was obviously tested positive, so I didn't why go out of my way just to go get a test. Anyway, I spent over 4 hours trying to nail down an actual healthcare provider that could write me the prescription. So my primary care provider couldn't get me until 3 p.m. tomorrow, which would have been my 5th day of symptoms. And you're not supposed to start taking it any later than the 5th day of symptoms. But apparently what it does is it keeps the virus from being able to replicate. Like it slows down the replication process. So the sooner you can take it after starting symptoms, the better. So, waiting until Monday afternoon to get it. And then that would be also only if I could immediately get the script filled, which is like, anyway, what I ended up, and then like 2 of the telemedicines that I reached out to, one of them wasn't covered by my insurance. And then 2 of them said that they could not prescribe it. The urgent care said that they couldn't prescribe it. And then anyway, I eventually found a like affiliated with the hospital that has the pharmacy group or the physicians group that my primary care is with. There is an affiliated like Express Care, which means it was covered by my insurance, that did a virtual visit with me. It took like almost an hour for the full virtual visit, which is like, thank God. The doctor that did it was like, I have the best boss. She says just take care of the patients and make sure they understand everything and like don't worry about throughput or whatever. but I had to take a proctored COVID-19 test on camera because even though I had like a positive one just from a couple hours, she's like, sometimes people will like try to like bring like family members COVID tests and stuff. So I had to like do it on camera in front of her. And then she had to run through every single drug that can possibly have an interaction. So there are a lot of drugs that have interactions with this. And then had to run through all the side effects, warn me like 10 times that it was under emergency use authorization, you know, like all the FDA warnings. So yeah. Abel Jack says antivirals are pretty much magic as far as I can tell. Yeah, well, the thing that was really the thing that almost made me hesitate about taking this was, but in the end I ended up deciding this is a virus I know I have now, is that once you take an antiviral, like Paxlovid, there's a possibility that other antivirals do not work for you in the future, like a very high chance, including antivirals for things like HIV and Hep C. And I'm not currently at risk for those, but I work with a lot of HIV positive and AIDS positive patients with like the financial counseling that I do. I also work with a lot of people in the community that are at risk for both Hep C and HIV. And so there's a possibility that I'm in a situation where I might have to take like PrEP or post-exposure therapy drugs due to something that goes wrong involving, you know, someone that's HIV or Hep C positive. And then the other thing is that I travel to a lot of countries where you know, I'm at higher risk for various other kinds of viruses. And I was sort of like, here's the thing, the chances that I, especially because I am vaccinated, the chance that I end up hospitalized or dying from especially Omicron variant being vaccinated is actually a lot lower than the chance that I end up dying from, unfortunately, HIV or Hep C if I were to get those. The flip side of that is that I have this virus now. So anyway, I went through a whole like kind of back and forth of like, okay, so I'm weighing against a future scenario, but you know, then there's also the question of like another virus comes out because another virus will come out. I mean, there's already new viruses on the way. And then what is the chance that like, you know, it's much more deadly than COVID is. And we don't have a vaccine for it, but we have antivirals for it. And I don't have a risk of it. The journaling broom says, oh my God, I didn't know that either. Is that either short-term or long-term that HIV Hep C antivirals don't work? So once again, this is emergency use authorization. So everything I was told was like, this is the information we have now, but we don't have that much data yet because it's new. You know, a ton of people are taking it right now. My friend who's a pharmacist, it was covering in the hospital's outpatient pharmacy and said had given out more Paxlovid last week than like ever before. And that now there's like a ton of people taking it. And, I also, when I finally did get my prescription on Friday night, when we looked at my like close local pharmacy, she was like, okay, they have 3 doses left in stock. And the doctor that treated me and gave me the prescription, she said she's seen more COVID in the past 2 weeks in Portland than she has in the entire pandemic. And Paxlovid is like available, but she says it's going farther and farther out. Like there's like fewer and fewer pharmacies that have it. But that means a lot of people are taking it. So we're going to have a lot more data very soon. It's just like vaccines. Like so many people were taking them that we got data really quickly. That being said, I think we have no idea if it's long-term, but they do understand the underlying mechanism for the antiviral. And because of that, I think that they have like some awareness, and the way that they framed it to me is it might be lifelong. So Newbold One says, oh wow, I did not know that. Yeah. The journaling broom says, that is actually scary. You went through all that just to get the medication. That isn't accessible at all. What the fuck? Yeah, I will say, so here was the thing. I was exhausted. I was fatigued because I had fucking COVID. 2, I was like, I'm physically exhausted and emotionally exhausted from how much time I have spent dealing with insurance. And I was like, I can't do any more healthcare admin this week. And luckily, the combination of my parents and my friend Emily and some people on the forums, like all just like bullied the crap out of me and essentially said no, you really should try to get this. You are like in a high risk category. The other thing I was worried about too is it's technically only for people at high risk, and I am not immunocompromised, which is like the very high risk category. I am immunosuppressed. And the thing is once you have COVID, for people with very severe COVID disease progression, they actually put you on immunosuppressants. So my question was like, am I actually even at risk for higher disease outcomes? Like, am I at risk for worse disease outcomes necessarily? Like, I know I'm at way higher risk to get COVID, but that ship has sailed. So my question was like, is it even worth it to kind of pursue it? But the thing for me is that I am, like my, I was like, I am very good at this, like navigating insurance and healthcare administration. And I usually am willing to make a ton of calls, but like, I'm tired, I'm sick. And like, I really did not want to go anywhere out of network. But then the problem I was running into is even once I started to explode the category of like, sure, I'll go somewhere out of network if they can get me in fast, was that there was like almost nowhere out of network that could prescribe it to me. So yeah, I was really running into that situation. All of this to say that the benefits of if you're willing to put the time in and kind of do the work, I was able to help a friend. So, you know, I had a happy hour last week, which is probably where I got COVID after I passed my exam. And I had to text everybody that was at the happy hour and say, hey, I'm COVID positive. It was over a week ago since I tested, since I saw you, but like, want to let you know, you should probably get tested. And one of the people I texted was my skating class, and I was like, I was wearing a K95, but like, you just saw me 2 days ago and I tested positive today, so get tested. And one of the people in my skating class who wasn't actually there Wednesday, but had just gotten back from a trip to New York, said, I tested positive for COVID today. And I was able to help her get the paxlovid prescription like way faster than me. So she was on Medicare. And the problem we ran into was a lot of the resources I found wouldn't accept you if you're a Medicare patient. You know, she was looking on a Saturday, which made it even harder because like one of the things we were running into is a ton of pharmacies are closed on Sunday. And then also you have to find somewhere that can get you in to get you the script on a Saturday. And like all of the combination of those things was like really a problem. So yeah. The other thing too was that the doctor said is that she said some pharmacists have been pushing back if you don't have recent kidney or liver labs, because this drug can be very hard on your kidney and liver, and you pretty much can't take it if you have any kidney or liver problems. But some pharmacists were requiring that you had recent labs that documented that you didn't have that problem. And she was like doing this whole calculation in her head where she's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to send it in, but if the pharmacist push back, then I'm going to order you a stat kidney liver lab. You can go to the one at the hospital because that one's open on Saturdays and can get it. And if I order it stat, it'll be ready in 4 hours. And then hopefully you can still get your script before the pharmacy closes at 6 p.m. So, I mean, it was just like a whole thing. Luckily, thank you, Mom. My mom picked it up for me, so I didn't have to go. I actually went to the pharmacy extremely close to my house, but that doesn't have any drive-through, so I didn't really want to wander in there as COVID, having COVID. No matter how many masks I wear, I didn't want to like go inside of a pharmacy. So yeah. John says, I view this as a good outcome of the new federal test and treat program, honestly. Lilly's provider failed, but Rite Aid succeeded. No, Rite Aid didn't succeed at test and treat. Rite Aid didn't have test and treat as an option. Test and treat is where you go and you get tested and they immediately can write the script. And test and treat relies on the federal program actually to have allow pharmacists to write scripts. which the reason that it is only available in Oregon is that pharmacists cannot write scripts under the test and treat program, which is why there's only like 2 Walgreens in Portland that can do it. It's because ones that also have clinics, healthcare clinics inside of them, because they have someone that is authorized to write the prescription. Pharmacists aren't allowed to write prescriptions in Oregon, and they didn't, like, in some states, they were willing to overturn that. But also, I will note that this is because we're in a city too, and we're in a city with like pretty dense amount of pharmacies, and we have a lot fewer of like the pharmacies with the integrated clinics in Portland. But Rite Aid did not have access to test and treat. They just had the script in place. They didn't have test and treat whatsoever, and there were only 2 test and treat options, both of which that were over 10 miles from my house, and it was extremely confusing to figure out how to book. And both of which did not take Medicare, fun fact. So yeah. Latitude says this is so bureaucratic and scary because of it. Yeah, it was really bureaucratic. I will say though that once my friend that was like, "Hey, I also want Paxlovid," like she's like, "I'm old, so I should get it probably." And she's on Medicare. I was able to be like, "Okay, here's the couple options that we have that take Medicare." Her first call to OHSU is COVID, which is our state. It's our trauma 1 hospital in the state. OHSU and public hospital. OHSU was has a COVID care line, and they just said like nobody can get you in on a Saturday. Then my next step was like, oh, I heard that Zoom Care can write the script now. Zoom Care won't accept anybody on Medicare, even at the uninsured rate. They just like literally won't help Medicare and Medicaid patients, even if they're just going to pay out of pocket. And then my third option was it turned out that the same clinic that I went to did accept Medicare Advantage because they are associated with the hospital slash plan that my doctor is also, my like physician group is also associated with, which is called Providence here. It's one of the few hospitals in the state. It's also the only one that will not do abortions because it's a Catholic hospital. But Providence like clinic that I did the telemedicine at was open over the weekends and does accept Medicare because one of the Medicare Advantage plans in Oregon is Providence Medicare Advantage. So yeah. The Journaling Broom says, oh my God, the Medicare thing is so fucked up. I know. Here's my question is like, if you're a Medicare patient that's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go to Zoom Care. If you just tell them you're uninsured, but are they going to like be like, wait, but your age is old enough for Medicare? Like, these are my questions. John says, meanwhile, my state rep wants fee equivalents for quack naturopaths. I need to tell him about this. Whew. We're not even going to get into that. Craig says, I wish you all the best. I know someone who has COVID in January, but is still dealing with the weird spells of fatigue. Hoping that none of the long COVID symptoms stay with you. Well, you might not be able to hear because you didn't see me the past 2 days, but I'm already doing a ton better. Theoretically, this does not actually shorten the severity. It doesn't reduce like your symptoms. It's not treating the symptoms. Like they still tell you to take stuff to treat the symptoms, but I'm on no meds other than this. What this is just doing is preventing it from essentially getting worse than where it was before. And I'm feeling fine today. So like, yeah, yesterday I still like, I had 3 items on my task list and 2 of those were very easy. They were like, put away clean laundry, empty the cleans from the dishwasher. And the other was post this live stream. And I was like, those are the only 3 things I'm going to do. Like, I'm sick. That's all I need to do. But like 2 of those were like livability status things I needed to do. And it took me like almost all day to get to get it together to do that. I also, one side effect of, apparently it's a side effect of this drug, but I also, before I had this drug, I was noticing it with the COVID. I am not someone who ever has like no appetite. Like I could eat all of the time, and I've had almost no appetite, and I've been having to force myself, but I can't really tell if it's just because I'm used to working out for like an hour and a half to 2 hours a day between like, or more than that even, between skating and biking and all my other stuff. And I'm wondering if it's just that because I've been so sedentary, because I'm stuck in the house and been sick, I'm not necessarily like burning as many calories. So like I'm not as snacky just because like my equilibrium is off. But also I had a really high fever, and fevers do, like, when you're warm, it makes your body like burn a lot of stuff, not to mention it was busy like fighting a virus apparently. So yeah, I don't know what exactly it was. Cheryl says, did you finish your leftovers from our Mom's Day dinner? Oh, I finished those on Tuesday before I got sick. I think you like underestimate the turnover of not having to cook in my house, but Eric says, cross the live stream off the list, mission accomplished. Well, actually, it was just that I was supposed to create the event yesterday for it, like the YouTube event, but I ended up just being like, whatever, people are going to understand if I do it later. Jenny says, what person without any pre-existing conditions has a regular Chem 10 and LFT's blood done and ready to show a pharmacist? That's ridiculous. Well, so that was okay, so here's my theories about why the doctor was encountering that. I'm wondering if the doctor was encountering that with some pharmacists, because initially Paxlovid was only really being prescribed in hospital and care settings. And therefore, I think there was a possibility she was dealing more with like hospital or inpatient pharmacists that are more used to being able to get labs when they need to get labs. Also, note that this is a really new, it's very new. So like, I can understand pharmacists being like, no, like we are we are what stops bad interactions from happening. Like the pharmacists are the last line of defense, and a lot of doctors really don't know a lot about prescribing this. So I can understand a doctor when they were seeing, or a pharmacist when they're seeing Paxlovid prescriptions, being a lot more cautious just because it's under emergency use authorization. And two, a lot of doctors might not be doing the level of checking of interactions because we're still like kind of doing all the work on interactions. For me, I had a CBC. My last CBC was in September, and the doctor was like, "Here's the thing: you have no history of liver or kidney problems, and you got a CBC in September. So I'm hoping that even if you do get like a cranky pharmacist, they'll see that like, yeah, it's not that recent, but like you have, every couple months you get CBCs and they're always fine and you have no history." So, but it wasn't any problem. So, the journaling broom says, it's alarming that so many people are starting to test COVID positive again, especially since most Americans have already had COVID or are vaccinated. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to be too freaked out about it. So not to put a golden spin on this, because obviously I'm not through this yet. I just did a test at 4 p.m. right before this live stream, and it was still dark line. So I am still I got virus up in here. But there's this part of me that is hoping that this means that my immunity will kind of like, I will get some level of immunity from this, and it'll hopefully carry over into like next month. But I've known other immunosuppressed friends that have gotten COVID twice already. Because if you are immunosuppressed, you are more likely you're essentially, because for me, I take a TNF inhibitor, and I'm, by the way, I'm no doctor. I'm just a patient who kind of tries to understand what she's putting in her body, but barely does. But I'm on a TNF inhibitor, which means that the tumor necrosis factor part of my immune system essentially gets stopped in its tracks. And that is the part of your immune system that can form impressions of viruses so that you can fight them later, which is one of the reasons why if you are on an immunosuppressant, it can reduce your ability to fight infections for up to like 7 years after you go off of it. And I'm supposed to never go off of it. I mean, as long as it keeps working, I'm hoping to never go off of it. So yeah. The journaling broom says, I have a friend that got COVID twice within like 45 days. Ugh. Angela says, I'm so sorry that you got COVID and I'm glad you're feeling better. Me and my kids got COVID in February and it was awful. Oh, I'm sorry it was awful for you. Thus far, I will not describe that I am doing awful. I would say that I had 2 really rough days. I'm also really grateful that I'm in the waiting period right now between passing my exam and starting my job. I'm waiting for all the paperwork to be filed for me to be officially licensed before I can start my new job. So I'm in the moment where, if I have a couple days of me being just completely flat out, I don't have a responsive, I just have to make sure my cat's water bowl gets filled and she gets food, and everything else can kind of be put on hold. So that is good. Latitude says 7 years of bad luck. Oh yeah, you should, if you are interested, Latitude, you should look up how long it is before you're allowed to donate blood after you get off different immunosuppressants. It's a really long time. So yeah. Eric says, I know some folks who got COVID prior to vax availability got full boost with Doster. Now got Omicron variant. Seems pretty squirrely. Yeah, from what I understand, one, like, if you got it before vaccine, like, you just had essentially no immunity left for Omicron, because I guess your immune system didn't really learn it. But then the other side of that is that Omicron is like, I guess you only get like there. I think the current estimate is like 40 days or something is like the max that you get of any kind of like immunity. And I probably will get less just because I have an immune system that I pay to keep dumb. So Latitude says yelling. Here's the thing. For all of the drama that being on an immunosuppressant causes, like, my joints were severely degraded. I really didn't have a lot of use of my hands. I was starting to have problems with my hips and knees. And I got on the immunosuppressant I'm on now. And within 3 weeks, it was almost as though I had no arthritis. Like, I went back like almost 8 years in terms of symptoms. There were things that I didn't even realize I had adjusted to as far as loss of mobility, especially in my hands, that I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was like within the realm of possibility for me anymore. So for all the crap I give and for how much stress the cost of this drug has brought to my life, like, it has been really great for me and I'm happy it exists. I'm upset that it costs $12,000 a month, and it does make your life a lot more stressful in a global pandemic. So the Journaling Broom says, my brother's friend, early 20s, has gotten COVID like 5 times now, basically every variant. He's vaccinated and boosted too. Oh, that's such a bummer. I have a friend who got COVID very early. She's a school teacher, and she got it like I think maybe May 2020. And she has long COVID. And for her, one of the ways that her long COVID manifests is that every time she gets stressed, she gets COVID again. And it doesn't even appear to be like, it's like dormant in her system. And stress means that her COVID flares up and she'll actually start testing positive again. And she is a school teacher who mostly deals with IEPs and kids that need more classroom support during a pandemic. So she's been continuously stressed. So that means that she's been constantly dealing with flares and getting it again. Cheryl says, how does your friend keep getting exposed? Mask us in public, live with bad roommates, etc. Well, I mean, that's also the thing, is that your body can hold it too. Oh, apparently this person goes mask us in public, goes to parties, concerts, etc. Here's the thing that's frustrating for me is that, like, there's part of me that was just relieved because I felt like, well, at least, not that I wish getting a virus on myself in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, it's not pleasant to get sick. But like when I was sick on Thursday and I was testing negative, I was like, crap, I just got like another cold. And like I pretty much haven't had a lot of colds in the past 2 years because I've been wearing a mask everywhere. And I was like, cool. I did one thing that was like out of the norm, which I did this happy hour, with friends that were all vaccinated and everything. But I did this one freaking happy hour, and now I'm like, I immediately got a cold again. And I went through this like, have I just been living my life like in a way where now if I never want to get a cold again, I've got to like implement all of these procedures. But then I felt a tiny bit relieved when I found out it was COVID, because I had a like, oh, well, at least letting down the guard, the thing that I got is something that's way more infectious than the average rate of infectiousness of, the common cold or whatever. And like I'm vaccinated against the flu, but we never really know how effective the flu vaccine is in any given year. So yeah, anyway, I've just been thinking about a lot lately, like what, um, like if this is what, if I get COVID the second I do something that is like a thing I hadn't been doing, which is a happy hour that was, I convinced myself it was kind of outdoors because it was like essentially in like a back greenhouse of a bar, but it wasn't really, because it was pouring rain that day. So there was no like the garage window wasn't open and stuff. Um, like, is this just like a permanent condition of like, we're just always going to get COVID now whenever whenever we do anything that was like life in the before times? I don't know. Yeah. Latitude says, at least you got the big infectious things and not a mere cold. The most dramatic thing possible. I hope that means you understand. It's the most dramatic things possible, but the other thing for me too is like, at least it wasn't, like, at least it wasn't like, I don't know, like a average cold, because then it leaves me with this question of like, should I be fully masked at every time I go out to a bar now? Like, should I just never go to a bar again? All of these questions. Cheryl says, hey, Lily, your dad and I were there and we're still testing negative. Actually, no one else that was at that happy hour thus far has tested positive. So there was a ton of other people. By that like end of the night, the bar was packed. Like it felt like pre-pandemic, and there was there wasn't a mask in sight because it was a bar, so people were drinking, and they're not required anymore. And so several people, we put them on like when we went to the bar, like walked to the bar, but it was so silly because then we took them off the second we were back at the table, and everybody else was doing that. And so all of this to say, I think I probably caught it from someone else in the bar, but I also think a lot of people there had recently recovered from COVID and therefore maybe had some level of immunity. So Joe says, my sister lives with my folks. She had COVID and they're fine. So it's infectious, but not guaranteed. Yeah, that's what's really interesting to me is someone we were talking to when Aaron got it. And well, one, I didn't get it when Aaron got it in Austria. And I did like all of the same risky activities that Aaron did. Like everywhere that we went out together, and I was staying in the same room as Aaron, and Aaron got it. And I didn't. And then... So, like, I don't know how that happened. And then additionally, like one of Aaron's like colleagues from the conference said that he's had it twice, and his wife, who he shares the same flat with, hasn't gotten it either time. So David says lives can be lived without happy hour though. Oh yeah, definitely. I think the thing for me is that it is for me, a lot of the reason that I am thinking about it, it wasn't like I was like really a terrible frequenter of happy hours, but then the question is, it's how a lot of community events are organized. especially in Portland where it's pouring rain for like 9 months a year. So a lot of people have things indoor for community events, and community events was like a large part of my life before the pandemic. I barely feel like it is now. And then and a lot of those switched to being outside, but then that means that like a lot fewer of them happen during the winter, especially like political season stuff. You really, so there's that. The other thing for me is like conferences, right? So conferences, like happy hours, are where you actually make the professional connections and actually get things done. And that part, I think, is I'm still like, one, are conferences ever going to be safe again? I don't know. David says that was more in response to "you should live your life" comment. Oh yeah. Well, but I mean, that's the thing for me, is just like a question of like where are the lines as far as what life looks like? And maybe it's just that I happen to do this when Portland is having this huge peak, and that maybe, it will lessen. I don't know. Cheryl says, I had to have trivia Thursday inside because it was way colder than the norm. Yeah, I mean, so that's like one of the other things, is just like, once you decide on your boundaries of like, what is the level of risk you want to take? I don't know. This is all to say, I've been talking so much and we haven't talked about stablecoins at all. And I'm happy to not talk about economics really at all if I want to. There was a stablecoin crash. I was a little worried about bringing it up at all because I was worried about the trolls, but I know that we all have a lot of feelings about COVID, so. David says, if this is how easy it is to get COVID, I think I've avoided it till now. Makes me nervous about what to do next. Well, that's the thing, is like, is it this easy to get COVID, or is it just because I'm immunosuppressed? But the thing is like, I didn't get it when we were out in Austria or Slovakia, and I really thought that like I was likely to get it. I also didn't get it in Finland, and we were in both countries right as there were spikes in both countries. So I still wear my mask. I still wear my mask at the rink, so I still wear a K95 at the rink. But one of the rinks I skate at, so as much as it is an ice rink, one of the rinks I skate at has a sunroof, and it's located in a mall, and that one gets so hot in the summer. And I am really running into the fact that like a K95 while working out really hard under that sun magnifying roof is, one, it's wrecking havoc on my skin. Like, my skin has been terrible for like 2 years from working out in masks. And then the flip side of it is it starts to get really uncomfortable, actually. And it's like, I have no problem wearing a K95 when I'm in a colder environment, but like, and when I'm just walking or whatever, but when I'm like working out really intensely, it really, really sucks in the rink. So that's been a thing. I've been kind of working on that. Eric wants to talk about the stable coin. Angela wants to know what a stable coin is. Latitude says, I have a fancy, nice office job over the summer, and it is hybrid, and most people are masking in person, but not everyone. Yeah, I think that's the thing, too, is like, because you're allowed to choose, it's this question of, I don't know. Portland, we're dealing with everything kind of a lot later because the restrictions were on Oregon, and in particular my county, which is the county one of the counties that Portland is located in, was really strict for a really long time. So we're only like recently navigating this kind of like reopening life. And then notice that we've had some of the lowest numbers for the entire pandemic. I think we've done the best of any US state as far as lowest like case numbers and everything, and per capita. And unfortunately, the flip side of that is that means that like every time we like have loosened restrictions, we get these massive spikes because people haven't had it as much. So, and we just don't really understand how to function. So Eric says, the fact that you didn't get it in Veen is amazing and equally squirrely. That's the thing, is like, it's just squirrely. Viruses are just wild. So David says, I switched to the Kimberly Clark N95, which is a duckbill-like mask. Aaron says that it is 12:45 a.m. in Iceland, and it is still light out. Holy shnikes. You should take a picture of that. That is really impressive. Jenny says, I like wearing a mask. I don't have to wear as much makeup to go out in public. Yeah, I don't know. I like some parts about the mask. But I really, really do not like working out when it's hot in it. I've been skating in it all along, but now that the sun is really coming back in the rink, because I switched to I was working on other masks before, but I switched to K95s once Delta came, and so last summer I didn't work out in the K95s, and now I'm really Abel Jack says, the DC area is now medium in community level and masks are now recommended, but I'm done. I think that's like how a lot of people feel. Eric says, it's not even summer solstice. I cannot imagine midnight sun in Iceland a month from now. Whew. Not a little over a month from now, we're going to be in New Zealand, hopefully. Looks like we're going to be in New Zealand for my birthday, and that means for the first time, I'm going to get to experience my birthday not in the summer. Because my birthday's in July, and normally it's really hot on my birthday everywhere I've lived, and instead it's gonna be like it'll still probably be like nice-ish, but it'll be rainy. It's wild that it's sunny at midnight. I can't even imagine. Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see what it's like. Latitude says, that's very exciting. Yeah, hopefully, there's a possibility that maybe doing a stopover in French Polynesia on the way back, but we'll see. I'm dealing with. I almost did a live help me shop for award tickets because I have to buy my award ticket. And the best ticket I didn't get on as soon as I could, and now it is like doubled in the number of miles required, and I'm determined to not pay that many miles for it. So now I'm really regretting that I didn't launch on it, but I'm kind of hoping maybe if I like clear all of the browser history and I try again tomorrow, it'll be back to the old price. So Eric says, dead of winter in the global south, I can imagine. Yeah, although I don't think people usually describe New Zealand as the global south because that's often used as a term to describe developing countries. But yes, in the physical global south. Yeah, but also New Zealand is still like, it's kind of a tropical climate, so their winter is still like, it's not like freezing cold or anything. So especially the region that we're going to be in, it appears to be just like kind of rainy and like kind of 60 degrees at 55, I think is the low end. So it's not going to be freezing cold. Aaron says, the view from out my window right now, I could put it on the screen, but I'm too lazy. Oh my gosh, that's some real light. Okay. Well, you can click on that in the comments if you want. I'm too lazy to share that right now. So I'll deal with that later. Mostly because I don't have the thing up that makes it easy to share it. Joe says, I would not describe New Zealand, this is our Australian here. I would not describe New Zealand as a tropical climate, but then I live in an incredibly mild Mediterranean climate. Okay, yeah, maybe it's closer to Mediterranean. I just mean that its winter is not like Canadian winter. It's not like as far south that it would have such strong, but yeah, maybe not tropical. I don't know. Tropical winters are just, what is the defining terms? Anybody that knows about climate want to explain that? Joe says, yeah, global south is geopolitical. Actually, question, Joe, how do you describe the countries that are below the equator? What do you have a term for that? Because it's like Oceania doesn't just include those countries, because there's plenty of Oceania countries. Do you have a term? Do we just call you Australia and New Zealand? And then like part of Argentina? Magnetic South. I'm actually really curious. Oh, Joe says Southern Hemisphere. That's the obvious answer. I like how all of us were like, ooh, let's think of new names like Magnetic South. Yes, Southern Hemisphere. That is in fact the name for those places. I could remember the word equator, but I couldn't remember hemisphere. Oh, sure. Everybody just trying to point out that I don't know that. I will say that I am talking really aggressively. I'm feeling fine, but my throat is now made me aware that I am talking more than I have talked in several days. So I think I'm going to eat this donut, which unfortunately I don't have a way to adjust the camera for it. So I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get it in focus, but it is a banana cream donut. Also, shout out to my parents, in particular my mom, who went and got this donut for me since I could not go get the donut. And I was like, it would be ridiculous. This donut shop is so close to my house that I was like, it'd be really ridiculous to order a single donut to be delivered. Like, I mean, if I ordered it on DoorDash to be delivered to me, the person would have to walk like less than 30 seconds. So I was like, how am I going to get this donut? And of course, the people at the donut shop know me, but they don't have a phone. So I was like, I tried to like call. I was going to call and be like, hey, can you just like bring the donut outside? But anyway, my parents solved the problem for me. So Joe says, go Lily's mom, that looks delicious. Yes, it was Mum Dash. I've been using Mom Dash multiple times in the past 2 days to get me drugs and groceries and donuts, so deserves severe shout out. David says, yes, because we wouldn't understand if you didn't eat the donut. I was feeling up to a donut, so I wanted to try it out. All right, let's give it a shot here. Oh my gosh. I didn't know this, but there's cream on the inside. It's like a square donut. And there's cream filling the inside. Wow. This is a lot. This is so rich. John says, a friend from New York City orders light coffee and dry toast to be delivered from the deli 29 stories down each morning. Okay, 1, extremely New York City. 2, did your friend write a Refinery 29, Refinery 29 money diary a couple weeks ago? Because there was one that went extremely viral for the dry bagel that they kept getting delivered, like a single bagel every morning, and it was costing them like $11 or something. David says that's called room service. Cheryl asked, does it taste like metal? No. So what's really interesting is, so I have what is called paxlovid mouth, which is apparently one of the big side effects of the paxlovid. Apparently, it goes away. They said only 6% of people in the original trial had it as a side effect. But incidentally, I have not found anybody who's escaped it that has taken the Paxlovid. But apparently it goes away as soon as you're done with the 5-day course. So here's the thing. I thought that it was going to mean that food tasted metallic because I was warned about it as a side effect. But no, instead, it's apparently these both have a bitter taste. Like both of the pills have a bitter taste and you swallow them as pills. But the way they get into your system is through your saliva glands. So what has happened is that my saliva tastes like metal, which when I put other flavors on top of it, it's fine. So a lot of the recommendations have been to just like get a gum with a flavor and just continually chew it, because my mouth just kind of continuously tastes like metal now. Okay. This is really a lot. Joe says, I have to catch up on Refinery 29 budgets. Okay. Here's what I'll say about that. That one is like watching a trash fire. It was just like totally a trash fire. This is good. I will say it's a lot. Like the cream is really, if you can't see, there is a substantial amount of cream in there. And it's almost a little too, the cream is a little too like icing-y for me. So it's just not working quite the same. I don't know. Y'all, I will finish it eventually, but it's so much flavor, and I wouldn't say that it tastes overwhelmingly banana-y, but I do have COVID, so maybe don't trust any of my reviews of flavors. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's like okay, but I don't think it's like great. I think it's a 3 out of 5, maybe a 2.5, something like that. I don't know. Angela says it's like reverse cake. Yeah, it kind of tastes like reverse cake. Cheryl says maybe I should have gotten watermelon salt instead. I'm really excited about the watermelon salt one, so hopefully that one next week maybe. Eric says it's no yuzu matcha donut, that's for sure. Yeah. That donut was incredible. Cheryl says can do halves. Well, I have 3.5, but I don't have a 2.5. So the only way to do 2.5 is to just kind of go back and forth. I requested the 3.5 because it was such a common rating for me. David says, I would like some of those banana chunks. Yeah, but they have the cream on them. It'd be better to just get a bag full of banana chunks. Oh, Joe says the metallic mouth is a bit like being pregnant then. Interesting. Is that a side effect? Is that a common side effect for pregnancy? I know that you had 2 really difficult pregnancies. So I don't know if that like translated to also the mouth related thing. Apparently the metallic mouth thing happens with Tamiflu as well. Yeah, this is very interesting. So they explicitly said, so the doctor asked me like, what do you know about this drug when she was deciding to prescribe it to me? And I said, oh, I think it shortens the duration. And she's like, no, it actually does not shorten the duration as far as we know yet. So Tamiflu shortens the duration of the flu by 8.8 days on average, which is one of the reasons it's so spectacular. And they both have like kind of similar mechanisms in them, but this one does not shorten duration as far as we understand, or treat symptoms. It just shortens it just condenses the amount of virus that can build in your body. But they both must go through your saliva glands, I guess. Eric says, off topic, I didn't know Refinery 29. I just looked it up. It's quite the website. It's kind of like, there is some really spectacular journalism on it, and then there's a lot of trash, and it's sort of really hard to, it's sort of like BuzzFeed, where BuzzFeed gets a lot of crap because, you know, they're known for their like clickbait videos and their like quizzes and everything, but their news division does really serious, like hard-hitting like journalism. They like a ton of the Panama paper stuff was actually like broke by all of that stuff was broken by BuzzFeed reporters. But then they have like dumb, your cats as 10 different gifs from Sex and the City. Like, so I feel like Refinery 29 is kind of the same. Like, there's some really great reporters and editors doing great, like, interesting work there. Anyway, they're money diaries. We were doing money diaries on the Oh My Dollar forums for a little while, where people in the forums were doing money diaries. And I think we all kind of lost a little steam because it turns out keeping a money diary is a lot of work. So we had like a schedule going for a while. I was not in charge of it. My kind of feeling was like I was not going to be the one in charge of it. But it seemed like a lot of people lost steam. I think the people that were reliable to actually keep up with a money diary all went very early in the like weeks of doing it. And then the people that were more unreliable, myself included, kind of went in the later weeks, so it sort of fell off. The Latitude says, we had a schedule and it was going great. I know, we were doing good. I think also I didn't do enough sufficient, like, encouraging or rewarding the people that were organizing it. Maybe we can bring it back for Summer of Funds 2022, because Summer of Funds is going to happen again, so. Eric says it's a Vice Media property, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, it wasn't originally, but Refinery 29 got bought by Vice at some point. So yeah. Cheryl says, I thought BuzzFeed got sued out of existence. No, that was Gawker, not BuzzFeed. Gawker I don't think has ever claimed to be doing great journalism. Gawker is just gossip brag. Latitude says, I'm just saying I would do a lot of money diarying for stickers. Yeah, maybe we should have some sort of special edition sticker sheet that can only go to you if you do a money diary. Oh, I do like that idea. Oh. Yeah, I think stickers are really always the answer. Yep, that's probably what we're going to have to do. I think one of my thoughts for Summer of Funds, which I really need to get on soon because summer's starting soon. One of my thoughts for Summer of Funds is there'll be a couple different activities during Summer of Funds. One of them will be like a savings challenge. One of them might be posting a money diary 1 week. And then like one of them would be the Budget Olympics again, the budgeting app games, so to speak. Maybe we'll call it like budgeting app field day or something, and we'll move away from the Olympics so I stop accidentally saying something that'll get me in trouble. But anyway, essentially you could participate in a couple different things and like maybe you could collect a bunch of set of stickers, as well as obviously badges on the forums. Yeah. I like that idea. Now that I'm done with my test, I feel like I have a lot more brain space for interesting things than Oh My Dollar, so. Latitude says, I was doing too much activism last summer. I didn't do, like, any of summer fun stuff. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say don't do activism, but you've got your internship now, and you've got your internship. You've, maybe doing a little less activism this summer. Maybe time to get your money together. The summer is soon. Summer is soon. Where did spring go? Did it start already? It was 40 a few weeks ago. Yeah, I know. It really was like a few weeks ago. Oh, Latitude says the week I was scheduled, a friend died midweek and I was just like, I'll reschedule and I never did. I mean, yeah, that's terrible. That's exactly the kind of thing where a money diary would not be of the height of importance. I'm sorry about your friend. I knew that you had like a really rough summer last summer, so hopefully this summer is Summer of Funds. And Eric says Summer of Funds. Yes. Yeah. I just renewed the domain, so I guess it's staying this year. I've also been running no, I haven't been running. Some other people have been running a trial at the budgeting, like the book read along, where they've been doing groups, and like every 3 weeks, essentially doing a group reading a different chapter, reading along with my book. And I'm hoping to do that in a more public way. And I've been dropping in on like some of their meetings and like book club things. Anyway, there's the hope of being able to do that this summer. So Eric says, you're committed now with the domain name registration. Am I really, though? Because I have a lot of domain names that would claim that otherwise. Fuzzbubble says, missed most of the show. Did I miss what a money diary is? Money diary is not an oh my dollar concept. It is a thing where you kind of like keep a diary of your week, but then you have like things that you spent money on as part of your diary. And Refinery 29 really kind of premiered it, but then we were doing them on the Oh My Dollar forums. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then everybody got kind of demotivated. But we can bring them back. I swear. Mary Jo says, I'd be super hyped for some challenges. Yeah, it's felt really weird to do, we had a really good amount of challenges rolling like pre-pandemic, and then we kind of ran into, it felt really hard to intentionally challenge yourself when everybody was living in a really challenging environment. And so we really pared down what challenges we were doing, because initially we were doing them like every single month, and they were different kinds of things. Like we did March of Time. The irony, we did a March of Time tracking challenge in March 2020. And of course, everybody stopped tracking time in March 2020. Like a lot of us had started and were doing well. And then when everything changed, a lot of us were just like, oh, this is like, we'll do this later. We'll see what our new normal is later. Anyway, so we kind of pared it down, and we have the year-long challenges now. So we have the 22 and 2022 challenge, the different savings challenges. There's the like bingo versions that's kind of more run by people other than me, but I throw in stickers and badges. And then we do Budgetober every year. And we've done No Stress November, and then like Get It Done December every year. I would like to do one other one, but I'm just not sure what it would be this summer. But yeah, Mary Jo says, sometimes life is the challenge. Yeah. David says, if domain registration is a commitment, I'd be writing half a dozen sites right now. I know, right? I will say, I feel like it was a real commitment to letting go of a domain, in that I finally let Bowie versus Prince expire. And Bowie versus Prince was this huge ride I ran in Portland for 9 years. That was like, it was massive, thousands of people. And we got like international press coverage for the ride. And it was just like a big dance party ride. And I let it end the year both Bowie and Prince died in the same year, because I was just like, meh. And then but I didn't really want anybody else to pick it up, because the problem that I had run into was that my name was so associated with it that I was worried that if someone else tried to like host a Bowie versus Prince ride, that they would make bad choices and be a bad public actor, because a lot of people run dance party rides that don't get quite as big as Bowie versus Prince did, and can just like end their ride at the river and, pick up trash at the end of the night. But that ride was so large that I had to put a lot of work into making sure we ended it in a safe place, and a lot of logistics. And I was worried that someone else was going to take it over, and then I was going to be seen as like a bad actor because, the Bowie versus Prince ride had trashed stuff and things like that. I held on to the domain for a couple years, and, knowing that at any time someone could technically call a ride Bowie versus Prince, and, me having the domain would not necessarily help things, but the advantage was that it wouldn't be listed as an official Bowie versus Prince ride. It maybe would help a little bit. Anyway, there was a possibility we were going to bring it back in 2020. then as you saw what happened in 2020, there were not bike rides that summer. And I finally, it was just coming up. It just came up like this weekend for renewal, and I decided to let it lapse. So, yeah. Anyway, it's all a very long story, but Cheryl says, wait, the final was a huge party that I decorated for but could not stay awake for. I mean, that was also my big problem with Boy vs. Prince, is that, like, when I started it, I was at an age in my life where I was capable of staying up till 4 a.m. Also, when I started it, I thought it was just going to be like 100 people and we were going to have a little dance party. But then it turned out to be very popular. And because of that, it got very big and killed my life along with World Naked Bike Ride every June. And but like, yeah, I just didn't want to stay up till 4 a.m. anymore. So I stopped really wanting to be in charge of that. Newbold One says, joyfully saving July. August money talk. So here's what I've discovered about doing summer challenges is, I mean, Northern Hemisphere bias here, but I have found that doing any kind of concentrated challenges in the summer that don't last the whole couple months, people are not in control of their spending in the summer. People don't spend as much time online, especially like on the forums in the summer. So things have to be way more spread out and they can't be very hard. Because people they spend less time. Newbold One says, yeah, I've got a decision like that in June. It's always hard when you've got those, they come up. David says, I need someone to push me on writing the one I bought in November to talk about my thoughts on theme park technology. I think you should make this website on theme park technology, and then you should come on as a guest to this live stream and talk to us about theme park technology, because I'm interested in this topic, but not enough to do the research myself. So I can just interview you, and then you can send us the website. All right. Oh my gosh, we've got lots of weather going on. All right, y'all. I thought we were going to talk about the stablecoin collapse, but honestly, my voice is getting pretty exhausted. I do still have COVID. I know I look fine and I mostly feel fine, but she says, blowing her nose. But my throat is like, ooh, an hour of talking is a lot of talking. So, I think I'm going to wrap up, and you know what? We'll talk about the crash of crypto stablecoin. It's only one stablecoin that really collapsed, and then a couple of them other recovered themselves. I really would like to talk about them though, but I don't think I have the voice for it. So hopefully I am negative for COVID by the time you see me next week. That's my hope. And I hope you all have lovely, hopefully virus-free weeks from whatever you want. Eric says, COVID paxlovid stream was a raging success, though. Great. I mean, I'm glad that people found my paxlovid experience interesting. So, and I managed to stay upright for this whole stream. I think I have now probably used all my spoons. It's also late here, so I can admit to using all of my spoons. But yeah, Cheryl says, don't overdo it. Yes, complete. John says, blog post. If you're talking to me, and not to David about theme park technology, I'm probably not going to go there. At least on the live stream, it's just this community of people. But the blog, people are going to find it, and then I have to just deal with comments. Newbold One says, by the way, a certain space car entrepreneur twit was streaming something about this whole coin thing, and while I was waiting here for you. Darn! I would absolutely love to talk more about that, but yes, I do need to not push it. So please, everyone, stay safe, pet a cat if you have one available, stay hydrated, and pop in on the Oh My Dollar forums this week and tell us what you want to see for Summer of Funds if you've got any interesting ideas. And if you are someone who is interested in getting notified when we go live, because YouTube notifications are just completely unreliable, you can join the text crew. This works with all North American phone numbers, so just go to textcrew.ohmydollar.com, and it means that you'll get an SMS notification right before I go live. I don't spam you. I don't sell it to anybody. It's just because you can't trust these corporations to actually let you know when we've gone live. But thank you so much for joining, and be safe, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.